This dialogue on the meaning of sustainability, just a word to introduce it. Why do we do such a dialogue? I think it's obvious that sustainability has become a key concern for businesses, including for business, not only government, but also businesses. With global warming out of control, still without a solution, and with, unfortunately, its first effects being felt in terms of loss of territories to seawater, rising temperature, etc. So business cannot and will not be business as usual. And adapting to that new context is absolutely key for businesses. And why do we organize that as initiatives of change? Initiatives of change is the continuation of a movement that was initiated in 1938 and which has always advocated dialogue as the key to human issues, human relations, and also to solve all kinds of other issues that are depending on them. It has also practiced dialogue, organizing conferences, including on business questions every year since its inception. And today, obviously, as the situation of our world becomes chaotic in a way, we are convinced that dialogue is once more the key. By dialogue, we mean inclusive dialogue, bringing together businesses, governments, NGOs, and concerned citizens, bringing together opposites if needed. But also by dialogue, we mean looking at concrete actions and initiatives. Because we are not going to solve any of the crises we experience today by just discussing them. Our hope and project is really for every one of us around this microphone to find inspiration in what our speakers are going to say and to find ways to invest usefully our time and effort into significant efforts or actions to generate change in this world, starting with business. And this is, by the way, only the first of a series, as you have seen, of these dialogues. So we do hope that, if not today, in one of those series, there will be significant decisions and actions. So without further ado, I think we could turn to our first speaker today, which is Peter Brew from the UK. Peter is a was employed as a senior level in a multinational company for most of his career. He's been for 15 years as well director of the International Business Forum, which has worked consistently for sustainability, working on all dimensions of it, environment, but also corruption issues and social issues. He established or participated in establishing the business coalitions in Vietnam, Thailand, and Philippines to that end. And still today he's working as a mediator on a volunteer basis. So along this long career path, Peter has had opportunities to make very potent reflections on sustainability, and that's why we would like to hear from him first to set a framework around these discussions. So Peter, up to you.
Well, thank you very much. It is a great privilege to be with you all today, and thank you for giving me this opportunity. My starting point is the reality that the world is at the moment in total turmoil. We've got the pandemic, we've got the issues of climate change. It would appear that traditional democracies are at risk. Human rights issues are still a major concern. Minorities are under pressure in many countries. Working conditions still remain unacceptable. So we're facing a huge tidal wave, if you like, of economic, environmental, and social challenges. And this means that for many individuals, they're living in fear and trepidation. They really don't know what is round the corner. are they going to be able to sustain themselves and their families? So it just seemed to me in discussion with colleagues in IFC that this might be a suitable time for a deep reappraisal of the role of the different players in society, including business. Should we now be reflecting on roles and responsibilities? And in my thinking, the main players in society are, of course, governments, both national and local, business, civil society, academia, and the media. And it seems to me that all have a role to play, individually and in partnership, to facilitate the recovery of both economic and social activity, and to ensure that there is equitable opportunity and access to resources, and by doing things properly, that we will protect those in greatest need. I think we have to accept that the old norms may be gone forever, and that some new norms are going to take their place. I don't think we're quite sure what those new norms are, but I think there is an opportunity for us to start planning what they might look like. And it seemed to me this series of seminars gives us the opportunity to reflect on the role of business in this new normal world, and to explore what frameworks might underpin a more sustainable foundation for recovery. It's important to begin by saying business cannot be responsible for solving all society's problems, but it can and it should play a vital role in helping create a framework in which communities can recover, thrive, and be sustainable. Outside of government, business is the main driver of economic activity and the applier of invention and technology for its own and society's benefit. But business can only be an effective contributor to society if it is in itself sustainable and recognizes its role and responsibilities to the wider community. Unsustainable companies raise expectations and livelihoods of stakeholders only to dash them when things go wrong. And over recent times, we've seen cases where employees have been thrown to the wolves, lost their livelihoods, lost their pensions. And sustainability becomes at the heart of how we could reshape and underpin our society in the future. True sustainability means that business looks beyond just maximizing profit, walking a tightrope of balancing often competing economic, environmental, and social pressures and priorities. The price for failure to act sustainably and with integrity can actually be huge, not just for society, but for the companies involved themselves. There's a loss of reputation, there's the cost of fines and compensation, legal costs, barriers to recruitment, and exclusion from business opportunities, all which hit the bottom line. Not to mention what I've already said about employees losing their livelihoods and pensions. Now, corporate philanthropy is an important aspect of the way in which business engages with society, but it cannot nor should it be a substitute for or an act of redemption for poor corporate behavior. Which brings us to what I like to call balanced sustainability. Put quite simply, The challenge now is for business to reappraise how it operates within society and to endeavor to give equal weight across its operations to, first of all, financial viability. Of course, companies have to be financially viable. This isn't a talk which suggests that companies shouldn't make money. They have to have adequate investment. Their income has to exceed their expenses. I think they've got to moderate senior executive pay. I think that is a major issue from the past that should be addressed. They should be setting aside some provision for the future to underpin their own sustainability. And they should meet their obligations to the communities in which they operate. Secondly, they should meet their environmental responsibilities, accepting the realities of the impact that their business has on the environment and seeking to avoid or mitigate damage and contribute to the enhancement of the environment and addressing its role in meeting climate change. Thirdly, it needs to understand respect for human rights, accepting its responsibilities for protecting employees, communities, supply chains from exploitation and ill treatment. And despite all the efforts, particularly over the last 2 or 3 decades, there is still so much to be done in protecting people's rights. Fourthly, it should embrace strong ethics in all aspects of its operations and refuse to participate in corrupt activities. And finally, being a good corporate citizen means being a good citizen in their host communities, paying taxes, sharing economic activity, and supporting civil society. Experience suggests that often these are seen as discretionary priorities, which can be picked up during good times and dropped when things get difficult. The reality is that individually and collectively, they demonstrate the essence of a company and its values. And they need to be embraced as a whole to become part of the fabric of business. So what I'm arguing for is this balanced sustainability, that all of these 5 issues need to be addressed collectively and need to underpin a company's operations. As I've already said, business cannot itself address all society's challenges, but it has an important role to play. In order to be effective, it needs to reach out to other sectors of society in a common endeavor and for mutual benefit. Business can work effectively with other sectors of society, with government, both national and local, with civil society, academia, and the media. But managing cross-sector partnerships is not easy. It needs careful planning, skill, transparency, training, and intermediation. And I'd like to end by emphasizing the importance of intermediation. The business community, I think, needs organizations which are capable of acting as neutral conveners, to provide safe havens for discussion, to enable difficulties to be mediated, and to build up this acceptance that for the future, we've got to do things differently than we have in the past. And finally, I think companies need to recognize that they have a wide range of stakeholders, all of whom have an equal priority in the way they run their business. It's not just to provide income for shareholders. All the people who are involved, whether it's the employees, the suppliers, the communities, need to know that they are benefiting in a positive way from the activities of any company. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you for listening, and I'll be happy to respond to any thoughts that you have about what I've said.